It's unfortunate that there is a governor in Texas, Governor Abbott, who has politicized this issue of what's happening on the border. And it's not making people's lives safer. It's actually making it harder for law enforcement at the border to do their job.
Well, obviously, it's a very uninformed comment on her part. There's really only one person in America not doing their job, and that's the president of the United States, who's not enforcing immigration laws. Also, as she has already been called out, and the president and other Democrats and media, they have cast a false narrative about some people dying on the border that apparently Texas denied Border Patrol access to. That's been completely debunked.
All right, folks, we got to give you an important update on the border standoff currently happening in Texas right now, because as we talked about in Wednesday's video, the federal government has ordered Texas to get out of the way and let them remove the razor wire barriers that they had at the border, because of course, how dare the state of Texas secure its own border, right? How dare Texas do the job of the federal government, which is derelict in its duty of preventing illegal immigration. So, you know, that's been going on, but very bravely, and big props to Greg Abbott for this, he has defied the federal government. He says he won't remove the razor wire, and earlier this week actually sent Texas officials and the National Guard to that area to occupy it. And currently they are not allowing Border Patrol, the federals, right, to enter that zone and take down the razor barrier. So that's where we've been. You can go watch Wednesday's video if you want the full story there. But the update we have for you here today is that now things are starting to get a little dicey, right? Because we report here that the Biden administration, this was Wednesday, responded to Texas and is giving Greg Abbott until January 26, 2024, which is of course today, to return control of the feds over the contested locations at the Texas southern border, right? So when I said it was a standoff on Wednesday, people said, well, where's the standoff? Well, now this is what's going on, right? Texas says, no, our people, our state government is going to control this. The federal government has now responded saying, no, give it back. And what's going to happen? We'll talk about that here in a second, but let's listen to Fox News basically report that for you.
Well, as it stands right now, you might be able to make out behind me, Texas's razor wire is still here inside of Shelby Park. It remains untouched. However, the Biden administration has now warned Texas it has until tomorrow to allow Biden's border agents back into Shelby Park and the ability to remove Texas's razor wire as it sees fit. A federal attorney writes to Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton that the Supreme Court ruled in favor of the Biden administration, ending a temporary restraining order.
Right. So we'll have to see what happens now. So Biden issued the response saying, no, you need to come let the federal government into this place. Of course, Texas is saying, no, you won't. I don't know what's going to happen. I will reiterate, as I did on Wednesday, that I hope the situation ends peacefully, obviously. But at the same time, Texas is in the right here, right? They're morally right to do what they are doing. It's the federal government's fault that they are not securing the border. And it's like, you're not going to send in federal agents to fix the border, but you will send federal agents to arrest the Texas National Guard or whatever you're going to do. It's not a good look. It's not principally right either, right? But again, we'll have to see what happens. Now, to tell you the honest truth, because I know some people are thinking this is going to start the Second American Civil War. Truthfully, this is my instinct at least. But again, I could be totally wrong about this. I really don't see Biden doing anything about this. And I think Texas would be very smart to call the federal government's bluff. Because let's be real. Optically speaking, it's obviously election year for Biden. Is he going to risk the disaster that may ensue if we do have some type of armed standoff or whatever goes down at the border? This issue of jurisdiction, the start to the national divorce. Does he really want to go there? Because he could also just turn a blind eye to this and people will forget about it. So does he want to cause the chaos, which again will not be a good look for him politically? It won't. Because he's already very unpopular on the issue of immigration. You will even sometimes hear liberals, although they whisper about it, say this issue is completely out of control and Biden is in the wrong. So do you want the optics of going down there, and kicking out the state government and basically using force to enforce open borders. Truthfully, again, Biden's weak as it is. I don't know if he wants to go there. Frankly, I don't think he will go there. Again, that's why I think Texas should also just hold firm about this. I don't think anything's going to really happen, but at least that's my instinct, right? And the other issue I think Biden may have is Border Patrol, who, you really think about it, how do you think most Border Patrol agents really feel about this? That's the other issue, is that if he goes through with this, he might think, yeah, we're going to go full Union William Sherman mode on them. We're going to completely, but most Border Patrol agents deep down are probably right wing. Let's also consider that. They arguably probably don't agree with what's going on at the border anyway. And again, I disavow all the violence and I don't want anything to happen. But realistically, would they even take Joe Biden's orders to do so? Or would they go there? Or, would they be willing, if push comes to shove, to kick out the Texas National Guard? I don't know, because we've already heard the reports. I mean, why do you think thus far Border Patrol hasn't just gone in there and tried to retake the place? It's because they don't really want to go there either. And that's part of why I say I don't think anything's going to happen. I know some people are going to be worried about it. I'm trying to calm those fears. But again, I don't know what's going to happen today. We'll have to see. But again, it is going to be interesting, right? How does Joe Biden respond to this? It's an open question. You don't know exactly what's going to happen. And that's why this whole situation is just so crazy. But folks, Karinne-Jean Pierre, who is obviously the press secretary for Joe Biden, said yesterday that she would not rule out the idea of federalizing the Texas National Guard. And so I guess this is another angle that they're trying to take here, which is, instead of trying to have some type of standoff or chaos situation, they will just exercise federal authority to take over the Texas National Guard. And their thinking there is, okay, well, if the federal government controls the Texas National Guard, then we can just tell them to leave, right? But again, I still think you have the same problem as you do with Border Patrol, which is, are the guys on the ground there going to follow those orders? Or are they going to mutiny against you? I have no idea, but listen to what she said, and then we will play Greg Abbott's response to this entire situation so you can kind of feel out where he is on this. But take a listen to Karinne-Jean Pierre.
Governor Abbott, who has politicized this issue of what's happening on the border. And it's not making people's lives safer.
Funny.
It's actually making it harder for law enforcement at the border to do their job. And so we have been very
by the way, to do their job, folks, of letting people free into this country. That keep in mind, when they say do their job, right, because they're saying, oh, the razor wires are getting in the way, they don't mean do their job of deporting illegal immigrants. They mean, hey, it's making it harder for these illegals to cross. And so if you have razor wires there, then that slows down our process of being able to let these people freely into the country. So just to be clear, that's what they mean. But anyways.
Be clear. We want to make sure we get something done at the border. That's why we've been having these conversations with Senate Republicans and Democrats for the past several weeks to come up with a bipartisan agreement to deal with the border. And look, if the governor is not interested in that, Governor Abbott is not interested in that. He wants to politicize an issue, and he's not helping communities. He actually isn't. And he's actually putting Border Patrol agents in harm's way by doing what he's doing. I'm not going to speak to any actions that the president might take, may not take, but we have been very clear on this.
So just to be clear, the anchor, they cut it out in this clip for some reason. The anchor asked, would you be willing to federalize the Texas National Guard? So that's the context there of that video. But again, realistically, I don't even think they're going to do that. Because what happens if you federalize the National Guard, and they very likely, I would argue it's almost guaranteed to happen, that the Texas National Guard just doesn't listen to you? That might be an even worse look than what's going on right now at the border, right? You have lost control of your own armed forces, of your own law enforcement, National Guards, I guess something in between, arguably, right? But you've lost control even more than you already have. So I don't necessarily think they will go there. But hey, they're trying to talk tough, right? They're trying to talk tough. But you can also sense a degree of helplessness in her voice. She seems to deep down know there's not much she can do besides beg Texas to stop doing this because, again, I don't think they really want to go there. I don't know if they have the guts. I may be totally wrong about that. But again, that's just sort of my instinct right now at the moment. Really quickly, before we play the Greg Abbott response to all of this, can I just say something? Just a comment to the Texas National Guard and the people, the patriots who are going down there and doing the job that our federal government won't to secure the border. That is arguably one of the most amazing displays of patriotic service to this country that I have seen in several decades. Okay. And listen, this is not a shot at our troops, at our, the people in the army, the military, the regular military, I guess you would say, because I don't necessarily blame them for the actions of the people in Washington or the military industrial complex. But objectively speaking here, what the National Guard is doing right now, the patriotic act of defending America, not defending some foreign interest or a defense contractor, but defending America, our homeland and our people, going to the border and securing it. This might be a hot take. Don't get offended, but this is just true. That is actually an infinitely more patriotic service of our country than anything our regular military has done over the past 30 years. It's just true. Again, that's not me taking a shot at our soldiers, but it is me doing a compliment to the Texas National Guard, because we have all this talk about, serve the military so you can go stop dictators in the Middle East or the Eastern Europe. Why? I don't know. Democracy, shut up. But when you talk about joining some type of service to actually defend this country, that's what the Texas National Guard is doing right now. That is patriotic service to our country in a true sense. So just want to point that out. Just want to give a compliment to them. Anyways, here is Greg Abbott responding to Karinne-Jean Pierre. Figured we might as well play this, react to some of it, and then we'll call it a day. But here you go.
Joining us now is the governor of Texas, and great to have you here with us, sir. Can you explain, what did you decide was the breaking point for you to take the steps that you did? And maybe also just back up and let people know, what are you saying about the compact between the federal government and the state of Texas today?
So it was the states that created the United States. And when the states voted to create the United States and have a constitution, included in that agreement was the compact that the federal government would take care of the states. And Article 4, Section 4 of the Constitution speaks to that and says that if the federal government does not take care of the states, and the states are in danger, we can ask the federal government to live up to its obligation. Then the authors of the Constitution knew there would be times when the federal government would not live up to its duty. And so they empowered states in Article 1, Section 10, the right of self-defense. And what Texas is asserting is our Article 1, Section 10 right of self-defense.
So that's very interesting, right? Because people are saying they're defying the Constitution. They're just defying the federal government here. I've made the case to the contrary, which is, again, if the federal government's derelict of its duty to do whatever it's mandated to do, then the states have full authority. But there's something interesting that Greg Abbott brings up, which is not only is that principally right, and it's something the founding fathers would have certainly believed, it's in the Constitution itself. So good point.
Because the president of the United States is not fulfilling his duty to enforce the laws passed by Congress that deny illegal entry into the United States.
Governor, will you instruct your officers to physically prevent federal officers from accessing that part of the border?
So what Texas is doing is just very simple. And that is because the Biden administration has really truly abdicated its responsibility to secure the border and enforce the laws. Texas very simply is securing the border. And so we put up the razor wire that you were talking about, Bill, and we put up all these barricades that actually have denied illegal entry. And as you pointed out also on that screen, there are criminals coming across our border. Texas has a right as a state to stop criminals from coming into our state, to make arrests of those criminals. And we have National Guard as well as Texas Department of Public Safety.
He's not really answering the question.
Who are there to make those arrests and to deny illegal entry. And Joe Biden actually does have an option here. Joe Biden's option is to enforce the laws of the United States
I
and
agree.
stop this illegal entry.
So I agree, obviously, but So that's interesting, right? You see this strategic ambiguity on both sides, right? Biden won't commit to sending in Border Patrol or federalizing the National Guard. But Greg Abbott also won't commit to, hey, if push comes to shove, we're going to stand up to it. So that's why the situation is so interesting. Like, what is going to happen? I have absolutely no idea. But it's interesting, right? It's interesting.
Looks like they're going to do that. Listen to Karinne-Jean Pierre. This is what she said about you yesterday.
It's unfortunate that there is a governor in Texas, Governor Abbott, who has politicized this issue of what's happening on the border. And
Such
it's not
gaslighting.
making people's lives safer. It's actually making it harder for law enforcement at the border to do their job.
She just said that this morning. How do you respond?
Well, obviously, it's a very uninformed comment on her part. There's really only one person in America not doing their job, and that's the president of the United States, who's not enforcing immigration laws.
Yeah.
Also, as she has already been called out, and the president and other Democrats and media, they have cast a false narrative about some people dying on the border that apparently Texas denied Border Patrol access to. That's been completely debunked. The only thing that
it was basically they found these like dead bodies in the river who had already drowned because, newsflash, crossing the Rio Grande River is very dangerous. Oh, wow. I know. Big surprise to everyone. People drowned and then they blame the state of Texas for it. So just for context there.
the spokesperson for it, Biden, can do.
And by the way, if you're sending your kids through razor wire, which some of these migrants have done, that's on you. That's like unbelievably reckless and terrible decision making, and it should be common sense. Don't go through razor wire, right? You see barbed wire as a kid. What does it mean? Don't go through here. But they were blaming the state of Texas, claiming, wow, look, people were getting cut in the razor wire. That's Texas's fault. As if, A, it's not the federal government's fault because we should be building a wall on the southern border. But then also, B, it's not like they're throwing razor wire at people or hitting people with it. You are illegally crossing a border, you know. But anyways.
Is to cast aspersions and lies, hoping that people will believe them. Because the truth of the matter is, what Texas is doing is what Americans expect to be done. Americans expect the border to be secured. Because Joe Biden has abandoned that responsibility, Texas is stepping up and doing it with all that razor wire that you're showing right now.
Mm-hmm. And you've committed to putting up more razor wire, where the U.S. Supreme Court just a few days ago said that the feds are allowed to cut through the wire that you've been watching yourself for a couple years now. And just to go back to your first answer that you mentioned there, this was your statement yesterday. The federal government has broken the compact between the United States and the states. The executive branch of the United States has a constitutional duty to enforce federal laws protecting states, including immigration laws on the books right now. So if you lost this week at the U.S. Supreme Court, does this now go back there? And how would you expect to win a second time around?
Sure. One quick point of clarification. Something, Bill, you just said that everybody's saying, and that is that the Supreme Court, you said the Supreme Court said what Texas cannot do. If you look at what the Supreme Court actually issued, they didn't write any type of opinion. All they did was to vacate a Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals order and to send it back to the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals. It's two sentences.
Good point, by the way. I don't think I made that in Wednesday's video because truthfully, I didn't fully understand the ruling either. But that's all it did was take off the restraining order. So it didn't make any type of ruling about states' rights or authority to do this or whatever. So, you know, this legal battle is far from over.
There was no opinion about anything about razor wire or what Texas is doing or anything like that. But that point aside, regardless of what federal statute may exist, the supremacy clause means that the Constitution itself is the supreme law of the land. The Constitution itself provides Texas with a right of self-defense in this case, because the United States has abandoned its responsibility to defend Texas.
So if you can get this case on the...
So he's taking a strong stand there. He says, even if we lose in the courts, it's an issue of supremacy clause. We're going to just do it. Which you know, is it, like I said, I know some people say this, is it sort of a quote unquote dangerous precedent for states to be defying courts like that? I suppose. But let's be real, folks. There's an invasion going on in this country, and I can't really argue against Greg Abbott when, principally speaking, he's completely right. You know, so that's where we are right now. Again, I'm actually going to be on a flight today when the confrontation is going down, if it does. So I won't be able to hit that immediately live, but, you know, I'm posting this early in the morning. Let's see what happens. I have no idea. I'm just as clueless as you. I have no idea what's actually going to happen with the Biden order. Hey, Texas, you got to vacate. You got to let Border Patrol in. It'll be interesting to see, to say the least. Okay. But you have Texas doing this. You also have a litany of red states. You can look up the map that are backing Texas in this. I think some states have even offered to send their National Guard to Texas. Yeah, it's going to be an interesting situation, to say the least. I don't know. Truthfully, if I were Biden, I might just avoid the optical disaster that could ensue from this and just say, oh, okay, fine, whatever, just have it, right? But you never know. You never know. With that said, folks, be sure to let me know your thoughts. Leave a like on this video. Subscribe to the channel if you are new. And until next time, Alpha Moves Only. God bless. Have a very good day and peace.